We already go to the first presentation. It's held by Peter Brinkmann from Brinkmann Electronic. Good morning, Peter, to Berlin. You're sitting in Berlin, I know.
Good morning, everybody. Yes, you can see we are in Berlin. Absolutely right.
Okay, good. So your speech is about functional safety simply implemented. And in today's industry, it is a huge task to develop and implement processes and specific know-how in the field of safety. So you are convinced that powerful safety functions will be standard equipment all over the world in a few years, I heard. So, and you will present a suitable path to reach this goal. Is that right?
Absolutely right. And I will go into it a little bit with more details and our ideas and why we think this will be a very interesting and very good future for safety and for the electronics and for our living.
You start, would you just introduce yourself a little bit and let us know about your company and then start your presentation, please.
Yes, we can directly go into the presentation and start the presentation. You can see here my name. I will introduce our company a little bit within that presentation and we can simply start right now. It's all about functional safety simply integrated, and I welcome our audience. And I cannot see you. You will see me only from time to time or at the end, but nevertheless, we will try to have a good communication in those difficult times. I hope you are feeling comfortable wherever you are right now. Before I really start, I will give you a short overview. This is what I will present to you in the next 20 minutes. We will then have time for a brief discussion. In this presentation, I will talk about safety electronics and the development of safe devices. It's not about security, it's about functional safety. But now let's start with a short introduction of our company. And on the next slide, we have some information about me and the company. My name is Peter Brinkmann. I'm founder of Brinkmann Electronic in Berlin. We are a very young engineering company with hundreds of years of experience and with a strong focus on safe electronics. We are a team with a very profound experience and know-how in functional safety in the field of industrial automation. Our customers are among top vendors of safety devices, mostly in Germany, but also worldwide. Now, why do we have safety in our minds? Well, the future is a little uncertain, and I don't have a time machine or something like that. I do have a fairly clear view what will happen in the next years with safe electronics and safety development. For sure, we will have more smart, safe devices around us. Safety technology will become the normal. Nearly every technical device, let it be a bicycle, let it be a machine, a robot, a drone, a kitchen machine, will have safety inside. This is what I call ubiquitous safety. Safety will be around us at any time in any location. Actually, I love this word, ubiquitous. It is so difficult for us Germans to pronounce it. And I tell my colleagues they have to learn it when working with me. Well, that is in future. But we see some obstacles. It is not for granted to get there. Some things will have to change. And that's why we as Brinkmann Electronic Berlin want to change things. We must make things easier than they are today. Simply safe. On the next slide, just a short overview of Brinkmann Electronics services and products. What are we offering to our customers? Well, we offer hardware development, software development of embedded devices. We also offer consulting, training, and do complete projects, device development projects for our customers. Finally, we offer technology libraries with predefined and pre-certified elements to our customers. But that's enough around the company, and we go into the next slide and talk a little bit about challenges of safety development. Let's have a look at today's situation. Safety is no longer a major research subject. The standards are stable. There is a paved way of best practice. Safety experienced companies have offered their products on the market for some years already and have set a certain standard. It is commonly accepted that functional safety shall not hinder people from doing their job. Therefore, fences, barriers are more and more replaced by smart sensors. Machines have functions for safe operations, for example, with slow speed, not endangering operators when they must work closely to the machine process. All this is existing and state of the art. It is available. The market asks for smart, safe machines. Machine builders must offer them. Drive manufacturers, for example, are under fairly high pressure. Customers expect smart safety functions. But what about small innovative companies? Do they have the capabilities, the processes, the know-how? What about international companies targeting for the European market? That's what I've said is valid in Germany, it's valid in Europe, but not yet in Asia. They want to target for the European market. On the next slide, I will simply tell you some experience, what we've done in the past, because we had to learn safety before we were successful. So we had our own first safety projects and made a lot of experiences with mistakes. We have made mistakes, a lot of mistakes, not only in designing electronics circuits or safety functions, but also in product definition. Those were the most expensive lessons we took. That is normal. And don't trust anyone who tells you it's easy. On the next slide, I will go a little bit into safety standards. Please, the next slide. Yes, safety standards. No presentation without standards. Functional safety, as you can see here, is a broad field. Functional safety is realized in various applications. It makes a difference if an airplane crashes or a kitchen machine cuts into your finger. And it is obvious that standards for the approval of a device, a machine, whatever, will have to take this into account. Therefore, the variety of standards is huge, as the variety of application is. The interesting thing is, however, that exactly one standard is used as the base for all of this. And surprisingly, many of those standards are fairly thin in number of pages. They refer to the basic standard IEC 61508. In there, all principles, process schemes, do's and don'ts are described in detail. The similarity of dealing with different applications is huge. This is the basic approach for our following discussion. And on the next slide, please, next slide, what is modular safety technology? Can we find an approach of defining safety technology modules that can work in those different applications? Is it possible to make this set of modules available for a broad base of companies needing safety? On the next slide, I will show some examples. We start with a safe drive controller. As electric drives are in a central position, drive controllers play a huge role in safety, also from the risk point of view. A set of monitoring functions and stop functions is defined and realized in many safe drives. The usual setup is like this shown in this picture. A safe motor feedback is, for example, used for monitoring. In the next example on the right side, we show a safe sensor that may detect obstacles like persons or vehicles in a given area. This sensor is a safety device. It will communicate its resulting signal via safe communication channel to other safety devices like control systems. On the next slide, please, next slide. Yeah, I have two more examples. Just a robot. A robot may have a static workspace which can be monitored by safely observing the motion of all axes. And on top can use sensors to detect dynamic obstacles, like persons entering the workspace. And last not least, example 4, a small wireless handheld device can safely monitor command elements, push buttons, deadman switch, and the like. The command information is then transferred by safe protocol via wireless communication channel to a control system. As we see, the safety functions may vary substantially. On the next slide, I will show you some common features of safe monitoring devices. Besides the safety functions, we can find a lot of similarities within nearly every safety device that will read sensor signals, monitor or control a process, actuators, and so on. All the devices that we have seen so far implement these building blocks. We have an input block that receives information from the outside world. This may be a sensing of a physical value, receiving signals from another device. The principles are similar. The input block must not only be able to read the signal correctly, but also must have mechanisms to detect erroneous states or signals. In the center, we see the safe evaluation unit. This is the core unit implementing the safety function or multiple functions. This block will have its own safety relevant features, for example, checking the plausibility of its own calculations. On the right, we see safe output unit. Depending on the applications, this may be communication channel or to another safety device. This may be the control of an actuator. Again, we will have testing mechanisms to prove the correct function of this unit itself, but for example, also prove the effectiveness of its commands. These three blocks, input, evaluation, output, are the safe process channel. Then we have two more very important blocks. Nearly every device needs a mechanism for its configuration. The configuration is safety relevant and may have influence on all of the process blocks. All this is founded on a basic safety system regarded as a platform. I will go a little deeper and have a look at some details on the next slide, please. Some details of the basic system. It is based on safety hardware. Of course, redundancy is one of the typical features. Besides that, there will be a lot of self-testing, monitoring features required. For example, safe supply voltage monitoring, watchdog, and the like. The basic system also includes diagnostic software, synchronization of redundant processes, cross-communication between process channels, and so on and so on. The basic system will also provide means for handling the configuration data, like transfer, storage, CRC checking, providing data to the processes. On the next slide, details about the sensor input block. You can see by yourself, we have the physical value evaluation, but also a lot of testing mechanisms. I will go directly to the middle, to the next slide, and go into safe evaluation. Please, the next slide. Then we have, of course, the pure safety functions, but there will be more functions related to safe data evaluation. Very important is a general state machine that will, for example, manage the initialization of the system. And next, on the next slide, some details of safe outputs. Depending on the type of outputs, we again will have standard safety functionality. Now, on the next slide, I come to a conclusion that most of the functions of the safety device are not directly related to the application. They are more or less standard for every safety device. Not every feature will be needed for every application. But, well, the applications may vary, but the principles don't. What we need is a modular approach. And we will see that on the next slide. If we start with ready-made modules, within a smart module concept, the common modules may be reused in nearly every application. And only satellite modules can be applied according to the varying requirements. We can see some of that on the next slide. Here we have, for example, this drive controller we've seen before. There we will, for example, need safe communication, but we will not need physical sensor data evaluation, and we'll have some specialties. But the core is more or less identical. On the next slide, we have another example, wireless control system. And again, we have core modules which are almost the same. We can cut some of them off and have some other means for communication. On the next slide, we have a question, why is this so important for us? What is the potential of this understanding? We understood that we have to reach our primary goal, making safety more simple. And understanding all this, we see on the next slide that not only technology has the potential to be modularized, but also the development process can be brought to the next level. Every safety development project looks nearly the same. And on the next slide, we see how we broke this down. There may be standard documents, standard checklists, standard calculation matrices, comprehensive toolbox for supporting requirements engineering, and so on and so on. This all will cut down development time, development risks, and finally, costs. On the next slide, I will show you one of the interesting examples. Cobots can't collaborate with humans when they are safe. Young companies have brilliant ideas how to reinvent, for example, robot programming. Their success will depend on fast development cycles at affordable costs and low risks. This is just an example where modular safety will do a good job and take away risks, cut down development times, and last but not least, even cut down costs. Now on the last slide, I come to a short outlook. So we, as Brinkmann Electronic, we see a clear mission: make safety development more easy at reliable costs, available for international vendors on the market, and affordable for young and small companies. In conclusion, make it simple, simply safe. So thank you very much for listening to my short presentation. And I will be glad to get some response from you. Do you have questions? Feel free to put your questions to the chat box, and we will have time, some minutes to answer them. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Peter, for your good presentation. Was very interesting to hear more about the safety and the standards that are behind that. We have no questions in the inbox, so this is just another try to get the attendees to write questions and send them. We have good speakers, a lot of expertise, so please use this opportunity. I got one question for you. You talked a lot of different markets that need to have safety, of course. In many cases, you need a big market or a driver to set up the standards for safety or for other technologies. So are there any big drivers in your area where you see that drive the technology and the standards for your safety, like automotive or other markets that help you to build these standards?
Yes, a very good question, and that I can explain it a little bit. As I told in my presentation, safety is not a really young technology. It has been on the market since the 90s, 1990. First standards came up, and there were big market drivers at that time, like Siemens or like companies like Pilz. They drove the standard forward and made it to a more or less stable situation of standards that we are still using today. Those standards are still improved, and there are some new technologies brought in there. What can we do with artificial intelligence within safety and things like that? But the principles have been set at those times already. And so that's what I said already. Safety is no longer a new technology, and there is not much research done about it. Nearly everything is set already, but still it is very cost intensive. It takes a long time. Young companies do not have real access to safety development. It is still, it needs a lot of experience, and when you start developing, you make your own mistakes. So it takes a long time for young companies to get to a state where they can develop safety products by themselves. And as I said, the market will be huge. Safety is possible nearly everywhere around us, ubiquitous. And but we have to make it more simple. So we are in a technology view, we are not on a rising path that technology is gaining more aspects, more new technologies, but it has to be widened into the market. And we see a great job to do there for companies like us.
Okay. So that's exactly what you do. You help companies that have not enough experience in the safety market, and then try to get them to the stage where they really have safe products and systems and so on. Okay. Is there any special markets you are in with your company? So what is your main target? Is it industrial, or is it even other company? Yeah.
Yes, we come from industrial automation. We have a lot of experience, and we have customers in that field of industrial automation, like drive manufacturers or vendors who sell safety devices on the market, like safety controllers and things like that. Also sensors, That is a huge market, and there are so many companies who offer safe devices already, and even more companies who want to offer safe devices. But as we've seen, the other markets, medical or autonomous vehicles, not only on the street, but also in warehouses maybe, or things like that. There are new markets growing and emerging. That's fantastic. So, and as I said, the principles are the same, and the standards are based on the same principles, the same mechanisms, the same processes that you need in developing those products. And we have a lot of experience also from different applications and different markets within our company, and so we are on a very good basis there. And what we really offer, this is not a presentation about our products, but what we offer to companies is a modular toolbox with standard safety functions and with this platform, and so that we can simply plug together what is needed by the customer. And many of those blocks are already pre-certified and can be simply plugged together. So the development becomes, of course, faster. But the most important point is that we take out the risk of the development, and the risk to turn an extra around and spend a lot of time for improving the principle of improving the developed device. And of course, our approach is that we want to bring our customers to that next level where they can develop safety by themselves to a certain extent, of course, but also to understand what they will need in their markets. Because young companies who deal with safety also have to learn how to apply this safety within the field of their customers. The application view is extremely important and has to be built up at our customers, just like the products have to be developed.
Okay, so very interesting market you're in, and thanks again for your presentation, Peter Brinkmann from Brinkmann Electronic in Berlin. Thanks a lot.